Okay, so today we're going to move on with segment 14. This is a continuation of last week. We're looking at the 7-year tribulation period itself. And so today we're going to continue with the tribulation and the wrath of God as it's poured out. Last week we looked at an outline for the book of Revelation, and we kind of went step by step how the book of Revelation is laid out, but also how the tribulation period is laid out. The tribulation, the seven seals that are opened by the Lamb of God, and of course, once you get to the sixth seal, then the seven trumpets sound, and so the first five seals really are man-made tribulation, and then you're going to have the sixth seal will start God's tribulation, and of course you're going to get you go through the trumpets of God's tribulation. The fifth, sixth, and seventh trumpet each have a woe that is assigned to them, and then after the second woe, of course, the mark of the beast is implemented, and then God pours out his wrath on the world. So we're going to go through all of that. We're going to try and get up to the point of the Battle of Armageddon, and next week we'll talk about the Battle of Armageddon. So we're going to kind of continue on where we left off last week. Last week we were looking at the first seal and the Antichrist coming to power. And so we're going to look here at the first seal. And I told you last week that I had these other verses that kind of go with the Revelation verses. Of course, excuse me, Revelation chapter 5 was the revealing of the seals, and nobody could open them, and so John began to weep, and then one of the people in heaven told him, "Don't weep." Right here, verse 5, the elder said to me, "Do not weep. Behold, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, hath prevailed." And so, and then the rest of chapter 5 really is a celebration in heaven that somebody was able to open these seals. And so we started last week with Revelation 6, verse 1. It says, "I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard, as it were, a noise of thunder." And all of this really, the communication, John kind of hears it as thunders and just loud noises, and so you get a lot of this semblance in here. Says, I heard, as it were, a noise of thunder, and one of the four beasts said, "Come." And I saw a beast, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given to him, and he went forth to conquering and to conquer. Let no man deceive you by any means, for the day will not come except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition. So this really is a reminder that the church had fallen away and then been raptured, and so now the Son of Man is being revealed. The Holy Spirit has left the earth, and so and then Daniel, it says, "In latter times the kingdom, when the transgressors are come to full, a king of fierce countenance and understanding dark sentences shall stand up." And I find that an reference that he understands dark sentences. So he's definitely united with the devil and all of this. He will have power and mighty and might. I'm sorry, and his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. Basically, he'll get power from the devil, and he will destroy wonderfully and prosper and practice and destroy the mighty and the holy people. And through his policy also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart. And by peace he will destroy many, and so shall also stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand. And so this here's some more interesting language. He will magnify himself in his heart. Basically, after the first 3.5 years, he will go into the temple, declare himself God, and required to be worshipped. But this says, by peace he shall destroy many. So the first 3.5 years will be peace. And on this timeline over here, I've got 3.5 years for the first seal, because it will be a time after the rapture. There's going to be chaos, and this leader will be propelled to power, and he will establish peace on earth, just to kind of overcome all this chaos and insanity from all of us vanishing from the face of the earth. Part of that peace agreement, he will allow the Israelites to rebuild their temple. and they will restart their sacrificial process. This says the oath that he will stand up against Jesus, and then he will be broken. So that's a look at the first seal. So we're going to move on here to the second seal. It says, when I opened the second seal, I heard a second beast say, "Come and see." And I went out, and another horse was that was red power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, that they should kill one another, and there was given unto him a great sword. So now you have this time of war. The second seal is this time of war that's going to be instituted, basically because this Antichrist is going to require it to be worshipped, and the people will reject that. Uh, First off, says, "Who opposes and assaulteth himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God." That's why I say he's going to go into the Jewish temple, sit in the throne room in the Holy of Holies, and declare himself God. Even him whose coming is after the working of Satan with all power and signs and lying wonders. And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. And in the midst of the week he shall cause a sacrifice and oblation to cease for the overspreading of abominations. He shall make it desolate. And so this is where the first 3.5 years has come. And so this 1 week, which is a 7-year period prophetically, halfway through it, he stops the sacrifice. And so we get past the 3.5 years, and now he orders the sacrificial process in the Jewish temple to stop, because basically he wants to be worshipped instead of letting them continue to worship God. And this reference is a reference to the church, really, before it's raptured. But this is in here so you can see that uh, this is the time. It's just this time for all of this to happen. So they shall deliver up and be afflicted and kill you, and you shall be hated among all nations for my name's sake. And then shall many be offended and betray one another and hate one another, and many false prophets will arise and deceive many. And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many will wax cold, but he that shall endure to the end shall be saved. But this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached into all the world for a witness unto the nations, and then shall the end come. And so all of this stuff has happened. And so we know now that this is the end that's coming, because all of these other things have taken place. Revelations 11:3 says, "I will give power unto two witnesses." So now the two witnesses begin witnessing, as you see over here. So there's going to be two witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,260 days. So this is another 3.5 year period, which is the second half of the tribulation, the 7 years. And they will be clothed in that sackcloth. And basically, God anointed 144,000 Jews, 12,000 from each of the 12 tribes, and they put a seal upon their forehead and marked them for his work. But I think primarily they are working within the Jewish nation, a lot like, in the New Testament, all the apostles of the New Testament, all the Lamb's apostles were really apostles to the nation of Israel until the apostle Paul was called into, and then he was the apostle to the rest of the world, to the Gentile world. And I think that's what's going on here. These 144,000 really are witnessing and ministering to the people of the Jewish nation, but these two witnesses will be witnessing to the rest of the world. And so they will be at the Wailing Wall, but there will probably be cameras on them. The whole world will watch. They will be hated, and they will have a lot of power. It says there will be two olive trees and two candlesticks standing before God in the earth. And if any man hurts them, fire proceedeth out of their mouth and devour their enemies. And if any man will hurt them, he must in this manner be killed. For they have power to shut up heaven, that it rain not in the days of their prophecy, and have power over the waters to turn them to blood, and to smite the earth with all the plagues as often as they will. So they definitely are going to have a lot of power. A lot of people seem to think that these come from history. The Bible doesn't say that. I'm not real sure why people think that, but I personally think it's just going to be two people from whatever time period that is. But I don't know that that's the case for sure. I haven't studied that in depth about that one particular issue. Then at that time, Michael will stand up, the great prince that stands for the children of thy people, and there will be a time of trouble, as there never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. At the time the people shall be delivered, everyone shall be found written in the book of life. So basically, this is saying that because the church has been raptured. There's nobody else to witness. Is why this is in here. So these two witnesses are the only ones. And then you have the third seal, which is famine. And so the first seal was the invasion of the Antichrist came to power. The second seal, war, he started wars. And now the third seal, this is the wars are going to lead to famine. It says, when he had opened the third seal, I heard the third beast say, Come and see, and behold, and lo, a black horse, and he had set on him had a pair of balances in his hand. And I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, A measure of wheat for a penny, 3 measures of barley for a penny, and see thou hurt not the oil and the wine. Son of man, which the land sinneth against me by trespassing grievously, then I will stretch out mine hand upon it, and will break off the staff of the bread thereof, and will send famine upon it, and cut off the man and beast from it. And so famine hits. And so now that you have famine and you have it's going to lead to a death of the quarter of the population of the world. So the fourth seal says, when he had opened the fourth seal, I heard the voice of the fourth beast say, Come and see. And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him. And power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth to kill with sword and hunger and death, and the beasts of the earth. And I bring a sword upon the land, and say, Sword, go throughout the land. So I cut off man and beast from it. Or if I send pestilence in the land and pour out my fury upon it in blood, to cut off man and beast. And so this is this death is because of the war and the famine. And so that's going to get us through 4 of the seals. And then we move on to the 5th seal. Oh, let me get my right one here. Okay, so now this is the scene under the altar, and basically people that were worshiping in other religions and other gods, if they don't turn and start worshiping the Antichrist, he starts putting people to death. And so this is going to say, when I opened the 5th seal, I saw under the altar the souls of them that were slain for the word of God and for the testimony which they held. And they cried with a loud voice, saying, How long, O Lord, holy and true, dost thou not judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell on earth? And white robes were given to every one of them, and it was said of them that they should rest a little season until their fellow servants also and their brethren shall be killed as they were. So there's going to be more killing coming throughout this time. And the angel took the censer and filled it with the fire of the altar and cast it to the earth, and there were voices and thunderings and lightnings and an earthquake. And so these thunderings and lightnings and voices, this is typical kind of talk that John uses. Then 7 angels, which has 7 trumpets prepared to sound. And so now we're going to move to the 6th seal and the 7 trumpets. And so this really is where God's judgment on the world began. So up until now, everything that's happened has been man-made tribulation. The Antichrist has kind of led people into it. But here the 6th seal says, when he opened the 6th seal, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon was as blood. So basically, there's going to be, as the trumpets prepare to sound, there's going to be like an eclipse, some sort of eclipse, which will turn the sun black, the moon will look red, and then there will be a massive earth shake. Then stars will fall from heaven to the earth as fig trees cast untimely figs that is shaken of a mighty wind. And so there's also going to be some sort of meteor shower along with it. And then the first angel sounded, and there followed hail and fire mingled with blood, and they were cast upon the earth. The third part of the trees were burned up, and the grass was burned up. And so basically all this fire raining down from heaven is going to cause a third of the earth to be scorched and burned up. And then the angel sounded, and there was a great mountain burning with fire and cast into the sea. And the third part of the sea became blood. The third part of the creatures that were in the sea and had life, they died. And the third part of the ships were destroyed. So this is a burning mountain, a great mountain burning with fire. Recently they said that a portion of the sun kind of broke away from the sun. And I really wonder if the Lord's getting ready for, this kind of event, if that's where that great mountain of fire comes from. And then the third angel sounded, and fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp. And it fell to the third part of the rivers and upon the fountains of the waters. And the name of the star is wormwood, and the third part of the waters became wormwood. Many men died of the waters because they were made bitter. And so now you have all this bitter water. So a third of the lands burn up, a third of the seas destroyed, and then this water is just bitter for men to drink. And so then we get to the fourth trumpet here. It says the fourth angel sounded, and a third part of the sun was smitten, a third part of the moon, a third part of the stars, and a third part of them was dark, and the day shone not, a third part of it, nor the night likewise. And I behold an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, Woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth, by reason of other voices of the trumpet of three angels which are not yet to sound. So basically, this is saying that there are three more trumpets to sound, and each one is coming with a woe. So he's saying, Woe to the inhabitants of the earth. And this really is just a eerie darkness that settles across the earth. A third part of the moon refuses to shine. A third part of the stars don't shine. A third part of the sun is black. And so it's just an eerie darkness, kind of like a moonlight night feel to it. And then we get into this. And so the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven to the earth, was given a key to the bottomless pit. And so now an angel is going to come down and open up this pit. Basically, he's going to let demons out that can go about the earth and terrorize mankind. And he opened the bottomless pit, and there rose smoke out of the pit, a smoke in a great furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke. And it came out of the smoke locust upon the earth, and was given them power as the scorpions of the earth have power. And it was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass or either any green thing or any tree, but only the men that have not the seal of God in their forehead. So this is what I was telling you before. The men, the 144,000 Israelites that have God's mark on their forehead, they cannot touch them, but they can really terrorize anybody else on the earth. And it was given to them that they should not kill. They could only torment for 5 months, and their torment was as the torment of a scorpion when he striketh a man. So they could go around and strike men and sting them with these stingers and cause all kinds of torture. In the days in these days shall men seek death and will not find it. They will desire to die, but death flees from them. The shapes of the locusts were like a horse prepared for battle. There on their heads was a crown of gold, and their faces were as the faces of men. They had the hair of women and teeth of lions, and they had breastplates of iron. The sound of their wings was as the sound of chariots and many horses running to battle. Tails like unto scorpions, and there were stings in their tails, and their power was to hurt men for 5 months. And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit. So that's Satan, the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name is in Hebrew tongue Abaddon, and in the Greek Apollyon. And one woe is past, and behold, there comes two more. And so now we're going to look at the second woe. Now the second woe really is going to be the unleashing of the plagues. God's final wrath will be poured out here, but the third woe will coincide with the battle of Armageddon. So we'll talk about that one next week. The sixth angel sounded, and I heard a great voice and four horns of the golden altar, which is before God, saying to the sixth angel, which had the trumpet, Loose the four angels which were bound the great river Euphrates. And the four angels were loosed and prepared for an hour and a day and a month and a year to slay a third part of men. And one of the things that's going to happen here is they're going to kill the two witnesses that have been witnessing. And the number of the men of the horsemen were 2,000,000. So this is a 2 million man army that's coming to kill a third of the population. And I saw horses in the vision, and them that sat on them having breastplates of fire and janketh and brimstone. And the heads of the horses were as the heads of lions, and their mouths issued fire and smoke and brimstone. And these three, it was the third part of men killed by fire and by smoke and by brimstone, which issued out of their mouth, and the power in their mouth and in their tails. Their tails were like serpents, and they had heads, and with them they do hurt. And the rest of men which were not killed by the plagues, and these were the plagues that the witnesses were casting down on everybody for 3.5 years. Yet they repented not of their works and hands, should not worship, that they should not worship devils and idols of gold and silver. So these are the ones that turned against the witnesses here and killed them. Neither repented of their murders or sorceries. And the dead body shall lie in the street of the great city, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt, which also the Lord was crucified. So the two they're talking about Jerusalem here. But because Jerusalem has become such a wicked city, they're associating it with Sodom and Egypt. But these two witnesses are slain; their dead bodies are left in the street, and people are going to celebrate and worship over them. And they, all the people and kindreds and tongues and nations, shall see the dead bodies 3.5 days, shall not suffer the bodies to be put in the graves. So they're just going to leave them out there. They may even have a camera. You know, these sites where they have a camera, like on a bird's nest or something, and you can kind of tune in any time of the day and look. There's probably going to be something like that where people can just watch and cheer and celebrate all over the world. And they that dwell on the earth shall rejoice over them and make merry, and shall send gifts one to another, because the two prophets that tormented them that dwelt on the earth. And after 3.5 days, the spirit of life from God entered into them. And they stood on their feet, and great fear fell upon them which saw. And so all of a sudden, these two dead men just stand up. And all of a sudden, everybody sees it, and fear falls over them. I mean, they know they already had this great power to bring on the plague. So what are they going to do now? Then they heard a great voice from heaven saying, "Come up here, and come up hither." And they ascended into heaven in a cloud. Their enemies behold them. And I think at this point in time, people probably recognized that God was real and started to turn towards him. In that same hour, there was a great earthquake, and a tenth part of the city fell, and the earthquake was slain 7,000 men, and the remnant were affrighted and gave glory to the God of heaven. So there were plenty of people in the city that, after seeing this, gave glory to the God of heaven. So the second woe is past, and the third woe comes quickly. Now, at this time, because people turn to the Lord, the Antichrist gets angry and institutes the mark of the beast, so that they will worship him only. Now the beast which I saw was like a leopard, and his feet had the feet of a bear, and mouth like a lion, and the dragon gave him power and his throne and great authority. And I saw one of the heads, as it were, that had been mortally wounded, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world marveled, followed the beast. So they worshiped the dragon, who gave authority to the beast, and they worshiped the beast, saying, "Who is like the beast? Who is able to make war with him?" And he deceives those who dwell on earth by those signs which he was granted to do in the sight of the beast, telling those who dwell on earth to make an image to the beast, who was wounded by the sword and lived. And he granted power to give breath to the image of the beast, and the image of the beast should speak and cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast to be killed. So he's still killing people that won't worship him. And he causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand or on their forehead, that no one may buy or sell except one of the mark or the name of the beast and the number of his name. And here's wisdom. Let him who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. His number is 666. And so I'm going to go ahead and go through these bowls of wrath real quick. Let's see if I got it. So we saw the witnesses slain, and that was the second woe. And now we're here, the seven bowls of wrath. And then I heard a great voice out of the temple saying that the seven angels, go your way and pour out the vials of wrath upon the earth. And the first went and poured out the vial, and there fell a noisome and grievous sore upon the men which had the mark of the beast upon them, and that worshiped the image. So now all these men that had the mark of the beast, they start growing these boils on their face that were just irritable. And the second angel poured out the vial upon the sea, and it came as the blood of a dead man, and every living soul died in the sea. And so now you have this blood in the water, and the third angel poured out his vial upon the rivers and fountains of waters, and they became blood. And I heard angel say, "Thou art righteous, O Lord, which art and wast and shall be, because thou hast judged us." And they shed blood of the saints and prophets, and thou hast given them blood to drink, for they are worthy. So now not just the sea, but all the rivers and waters are full of blood. And so the men on earth that receive the mark of the beast, they have these boils. Now all the waters turn to blood. And then fourth angel poured out a vial, was given him to scorch men with fire. And so there's this great heat that comes upon them with the boil and the to drink, so they're thirsty, and now they're burning up with heat, and they blaspheme the name of God. And then the fifth angel poured out his vial upon the seed of the beast, and his kingdom was full of darkness, and they gnawed their tongues. So now you got darkness, these sores, and just getting so bad that they're trying to like gnaw their tongues off, tear their arms off. I mean, death will not find them. And they blaspheme the God of heaven because of their pains and sores, and repented not of their deeds. And then the sixth bowl of wrath was poured out on the river Euphrates and dried up, and the kings of the east might be prepared. And I saw these unclean spirits like frogs come out of the mouth of the dragon, and the mouth of the beast, and the mouth of the prophet, and the spirits of the devils working miracles go forth to the kings of the earth. So this is the call for all kingdoms to come to battle against the Lord. And then this says, so when the seventh seal was opened, there was silence in heaven for a space of a half an hour. And so that's going to get us to the book of um, to the Battle of Armageddon next week. So we're going to have the seventh seal, the seventh trumpet, the third woe, and the seventh bowl of wrath are all unleashed all at the same time, which is the culmination of Battle of Armageddon and the destruction of that city Babylon that we talked about. So I'm going to leave it there since we went over, and we'll get more into this next week and look at the Babylonian destruction and the Battle of Armageddon. All right. I hope you enjoyed this, and we'll see you next time. God bless you.